Want to make an Afghan one block at a time? Join me and we can make one together. Thank you for joining me on the journey to make an Afghan together block by block. This video series takes 16 different Afghan squares, 3 of each of the same square, but each square of those 3 are a different shade of gray. You can pick your own colors, but I have the links to the 3 grays that I use down below. In the end, I will show you how to join the squares and finish off your Afghan. In just a few short weeks, we will have a completed Afghan. I want to make sure I give credit. The blocks are all a modification and a different version of patterns that I got from this pattern that I had since 1997. So I don't believe it's in print anymore, but I had to make sure credit was given to the original designer. This square is known as little crowns. And so I have my yarn, start with a slip knot. I put it over my finger and thumb and draw up the yarn. And I have my size J crochet hook. And we are going to start this time with 30 chains. Okay, make sure your chains are nice and loose, and as practice, always count before you start your first row. Okay, now we are going to double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So the 4th chain is, you count it 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in the 4th chain, you're going to double crochet, and a double crochet you put over your hook first, then you stick it into your chain, draw back your yarn, draw back through 2 loops, and draw through 2 loops again. So now you're left with your one that's on the hook, and we're going to do another double crochet in the next chain. So now we get to make our little crown. So now you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and in the first chain, the 3rd one from the hook, you're going to put a single crochet. That part right there is the little crown. And we're going to skip the next 2 chains. So we're skipping this one and skipping that one. And we are going to put a double crochet in the next 3. So here's 1, 2, and 3. And now you're going to repeat and do another crown. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3. In the beginning chain, the 3rd one from the hook, do a single crochet, skip 2 chains, and do 3 double crochets. Chain 3, single crochet in the first one, skip the next 2 chains, and 3 double crochets. So let's lay it down and show you what we have. At this point, you need to have 5 crowns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have the 3 double crochets in between each one. So it looks like you're set to go to the next row. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, turn our project, and we're going to count that as a double crochet from here on. And we're going to double crochet in the next 2 double crochets down below. You're going to make another crown, 1, 2, 3, single crochet in the bottom, single crochet in that first chain. We're going to skip over the crown down below, and we are going to put 3 double crochets in the double crochets below. So 1, 2, and 3. So you're going to continue this pattern until you have almost a square. And so at the end of the row, you're going to chain 3, do your 2 double crochets, and make your crowns all the way back. So at the end of each row, you need to double check that you have 5 crowns and you have 3 double crochets in between. So continue that till you have a square. Finishing up the last row, because it looks like we're getting close to it being a square. So I'm chaining my 3, single crochet, and double crochet in the last 3 stitches, and then we'll measure it. And we're roughly 7.5 by 7.5. That looks good. On this one, we've repeated the pattern, but we need to do one last row to get this edge to be nice and smooth so that you can do your edging. So to finish the last row, we need to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We need to turn the project, and so basically we're just making a smooth edge. So we're going to double crochet in the next 2. Then we're going to chain 2 to go over that gap of your little crown. We're going to double crochet in the next 3. Continue all the way across the row, and then we'll be ready to do your edging. And finish with a double crochet in your turning chain. And now we are ready to do your edging. This square, we are going to do shells, and they're going to be lined up in vertical rows. So I have my J crochet hook and my yarn. Start with your slip knot, wrap it around your finger and thumb, give it a twist, and draw up your yarn. And to start with on this one, you need to chain 27 very loose. 1, 2, 3, 25, 26, and 27. And as a habit, I double check. I count my chains. Nothing worse than getting all the way done with a row and figuring out you miscounted. So just double check real quick. And there was one too many on that one. So that was not staged for the video. There was truly one too many on that chain. So 27. And now we are going to do 5 double crochets in the same stitch. So we're going to count back 6 of the chains. And that last one's a little tight here. So I'm going to take out one and redo it. I got a little tight on me. So here's number 27 again. So we're going to go back to number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm just going to leave that screwdriver there so you can see. And to do a double crochet, you wrap over 1, and we're going to go in the number 6 chain. And I like to go under 2 of the threads on that chain. So we're going to go under both of those, draw up your thread, loop over, draw over 2, loop over, draw over 2. We're going to do 5 of those in that same chain. So we're going to do, there's number 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there we have, these are your beginning chains. In the 6th one, we have put 5 double crochets. After you do your first shell, which is the 5 double crochets in the 1 chain, so now we have our shell. Here's a diagram of what we're going to be doing. We're going to skip 2 chains, and we're going to do a double crochet. Skip 2, and then we're doing a shell. Skip 2, double crochet, skip 2, shell, all the way across. So there is chain number 1, there's chain number 2. I'm going to do a double crochet in the 3rd one, so we've skipped 2. There's number 1, there's number 2. Now we're doing 5 double crochets in the same stitch. There's 1, there's 2, double crochet. There's 1, 2, do a shell. And at this point you should have 3 left. So you have 1, 2 that you're skipping, and end with a double crochet in that last chain. And so there you have the end of row 1. You have a shell, double crochet, so you end up with 4 shells and 4 double crochets. And once you have that all spaced out correctly, if you have to rip it out to get it correct, it's important to get it correct. Now you know what you need to know for the rest of it. So we're going to chain 3, and we're going to turn our row, and we're going to go in the top of the shell, the center double crochet of the shell, and we're going to do a shell right there. So we're going to do 5 in the center double crochet of the shell. So here's number 4 and number 5, and then we go down to the double crochet that we skipped to. So it's skipping 2, going to the double crochet. So everything is lining up. All of your shells are lining up, all your double crochets are lining up. So that's why it's important to have that bottom row correct. Now you're going to go to the center of this shell, skipping 2, go to the center double crochet and do another shell. So 5 in the middle stitch of that shell, and skip 2 to go to the top of the turning chain. So this is counted as a double crochet, the turning chain is. So there's the beginning of my row 3. You chain 3 at the beginning of every project, or of every row, turn, skip 2 and a shell, skip 2 and a standalone, skip 2 and a shell, skip 2 and a standalone, and you have your pattern. So now you're going to continue until your project is almost square. I'm down to the last shell on this row that visually looks like it might be a square. So at this point, on this kind of pattern, since this last row is at least a 1/2 inch, you probably don't need to use a measuring tape. All we need to do is fold it to see that if it's pretty close to a square, and that's pretty close. If I did another row, it would be too much. So at this point, we are ready to add the edging of your square. This square is super fun. It is using what they're calling the slant stitch. So I'm going to start with my slip knot. I put it over my index finger and thumb and pull up my yarn. I have my size J crochet hook, and we are going to chain 25 loose chains. And it's always a good practice to double count and make sure that you didn't skip one. And 25, so it looks good. So we're going to start with a row of single crochets, and you're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So that's number 1 and that's number 2. So we're going to do a single crochet in the second one from the hook, and a single crochet, you just insert your hook into the chain, and I like to go under 2 strands, draw back 1 and draw back through both on your hook. And you're going to do that all the way across. So we have under 2 strands, draw through both. And we're going to do that all the way across to the end. When we're done, you're going to have 24 single crochets, and we'll count those to make sure. Okay, there's my last chain. Okay, let's lay it down and double check that we need 24 single crochets. 3 and 24. Fantastic. So for this one, to get started on the pattern, we're going to chain 3, and we're going to turn, and we're going to count that one as a double crochet. So that's considered a double crochet, and we're going to double crochet in the next. So that one will line up with this single crochet. So we're going to double crochet in the next one. So now we skip the next single crochet, and we're going to do 3 double crochets in a row. So in the next 3 down below, we're going to do 3 double crochets. So here's what we have so far. You have This is considered 1, and there's a double crochet. We're going to skip this chain, and we have done 3 double crochets. Now this is where the slant comes in. You're going to yarn over your hook, and you're going to go back to that single crochet that you skipped, and you're going to draw up your yarn. And at this point you kind of stretch out your stitch because you want it even with the top rows, so nice and loose, and we're going to draw through 2, and then we're going to yarn over and draw through 2. So basically it's the same motion as a double crochet, but since we've come back here, it's a slant stitch. So you come back to the one that you skipped, and then you stretch it out so it's nice and even. So we're going to do that again. We're going to just continue and repeat that across. So you're going to skip 1 single crochet, do 3 double crochets in the next 3 single crochets. You're going to yarn over like you're doing a double crochet. You're going to come back here to that single crochet that we skipped and stretch out your stitch to where it's nice and even, and then finish off your double crochet motion. So we yarned over and went through 2, yarn over and go through 2. We're almost to the end of the first row, and we have 5 slant stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And to end off that row, we're going to put 2 double crochets in the remaining stitches. So we just have 2 single crochets left, and we're going to do double crochets in those. Now at the end of that row, we're going to chain 1, turn the project, and we are going to single crochet all the way across. So in the top of the very first stitch there, we're going to single crochet 1, 2, and we're going to continue all the way across. I'm just showing you, there's 6, just showing you that some of them are going to look a little funny because it's the slant stitch, but when we're done, we'll have 24 single crochets. So that was number 6. Okay, we just finished the row of single crochet, and we need to have 24 of those. And I didn't realize I had pushed stop on the camera. When I got to the end, I only had 23. So I took it out and redid. So make sure at this point you need to have 24 single crochets. Now we're going to chain 3. We're going to turn the row, and now we get to do the slant row again. And remember, this is a double crochet. The chain 3 is considered a double crochet. We're going to do 1 more double crochet in the next one. We're going to skip the single crochet, and we're going to do 3 double crochets in a row. Now we do the slant stitch back to the single crochet that we skipped. So you yarn over, go underneath your single crochet, draw back your yarn, stretch it out nice and tall, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. Skip a single crochet, do 3 double crochets, yarn over, go through the single crochet that you skipped, stretch up your stitch to make it nice and long, and finish off with the rest of your double crochet motion. Skip and do 3. And we're down to the end. Finish it off with 2 double crochets. Chain 1, turn, and single crochet all the way back, ending with 24 of them. I am closing in on it looking like it's a square, and so I've on my last row I'm doing the single crochet row, and now let's turn it over and measure to see how we're doing. So it's just a little over 6, and yeah, that'll stretch out fine. So that's a little over 6. And now this one is ready for its border. This one appears a little smaller because some of these have been measuring 7 inches, but every single one that I've done when I'm doing the steaming, it stretches out just fine. So you're ready for your border. For this block, we are going to do a combination of double crochets and single crochets and chains all in the same stitch to make a little pattern. It looks really cool. So we're going to start with our slip knot and draw up your yarn, and I'm using my size J crochet hook. And on this one, we chain 25. Okay, there we have 25. As a practice, I like to double check that I didn't miscount. 24, 25, looks good. So now we're going to start in the 4th chain from the hook. So we're going to count, so there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in the 4th chain, we're going to do a double crochet, a chain 2, and then a single crochet, all in the same stitch. So to start with, we're going to do, first we're going to do a double crochet. So for a double crochet, you hook over your loop once, and we insert it into the 4th chain, and we make a double crochet. So you draw back, draw through 2, draw through 2. Now we're going to chain 2, and in that same stitch, we're going to do a single crochet. So it just makes kind of an angled stitch there. So now we're going to skip 2, and we are going to do 2 double crochets, 2 chains, and a single crochet. So we have 2 double crochets, chain 2, and a single crochet, which is the same as over here. Is just our turning end is going to count as the first double crochet, second double crochet. There's our chain 2 and our single crochet. So now we're going to continue the same rhythm. We're skipping 1, 2, and we're going to do 2 double crochets, 2 chains, and a single crochet. Skip 2, and when you're going in the chain down below, try to go under 2 pieces of the chain, 2 parts of the chain. It just makes it a nice strong stitch. So we're going to do 2 double crochets, chain 2, and a single crochet, and continue that all the way across to the end. And go ahead and do the same stitch in your last chain. Okay, so that's what it looks like at the end of row 1. So now to go to your next row, we're going to chain 2. We're going to turn, and now we are going to work in the chain 2 places all the way across. So in this chain 2 place, we're going to do 2 double crochets, 2 chains, and a single crochet. Now you're going to go to your next chain 2 place and do the same thing. 2 double crochets, 2 chains, and a single crochet. Skip everything in between to get to the next 2 chains place, and repeat. Okay, we're down to our last chain 2 place. We're going to go ahead and do the same stitch there. 2 double crochet, 2 chains, and a single crochet. At this point, we're going to chain 2, just like we did before, turn the project, and we're going to work in the first chain 2 place and repeat. So there's 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1. So here you have your first row, your second row, and we're at the beginning of the 3rd row, working in the chain 2 places all the way across. When you get to the end, work in your chain 2 place, chain 2, and go back. And we're going to continue that till we make this a square. Okay, it looks like it's getting close to a square, so I'm going to finish off this row and we'll check our measurements. Okay, so we can test it this way, folding it as a triangle, and see if we're pretty close to even, and it looks like it's real close. But we can also take a measurement and that one's 7 side to side, and that's just right at 7. So it looks like we finish off our pattern there. Now it's ready to put the edging on. This square is what they're calling the check stitch. So I have my yarn, need to make a slip knot, put it over my index finger and thumb, give it a little twist, and draw up your yarn. I have my J crochet hook, and we start this one by chaining 26 nice and loose. Okay, that's 26. Always a very good practice to count your stitches before you go to the next row. There we have 26. And so for this one, we are going to put a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So you count that by counting your chains. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that was the 4th one right there. A double crochet, you loop over your hook with the thread, put it in the 4th chain, going under 2 pieces of the chain so it gets it nice and strong. We're going to draw back your yarn. We're going to draw through 2 on your hook and draw through 2 on your hook. Now we're going to do a double crochet in the rest of the chains all the way across. Okay, there is the completion of your double crochet row. At this point, count to make sure you have 24 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 22, 23, and this last turning chain is 24. So we have our 24 double crochet, chain 1, and turn your project, and we're going to single crochet in the top of your first double crochet. So right in the top of that first stitch, we're going to do a single crochet. Then we're going to chain 2. So we're going to skip this double crochet, and we're going to single crochet in the space between those. So here's what it looks like. We're skipping this double crochet in between the next 2, so in between number 2 and number 3, we are putting a single crochet. We're going to chain 2. We're going to skip the next 2 double crochets, and we're going to put a single crochet in there. Repeat that. We're going to do chain 2, skip 2, single crochet in between. Chain 2, skip 2, single crochet. Now we're down to our last 2 stitches, and we are going to chain 2, and we're going to single crochet in the top of the turning chain. So at the end of row number 2, we have 12 of these chain 2 spaces. So we'll just double check. So there's 12. Chain 3, turn your project, and we're going to double crochet in the first chain 2 place, and then do 2 double crochets in each of the rest of the chain 2 places. So here's what you have. The turning chain is basically 1 double crochet. So there's 2 in that section, 2 in the next chain 2 space, 2 double crochets in the next chain 2, and that's what you're going to do all the way across that row. Now we're down to the last chain 2 place. We're going to do 1 in that space and 1 in the top of the single crochet. So now at this point, we're back to having 24 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 2, and 24. Now we go back to repeating the chain 2 row. Okay, at the end of that row, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn, and this is where we single crochet in the top of the first double crochet. We chain 2, and we're going to skip this double crochet, and we're going to single crochet in between the 2 double crochets. Chain 2, and single crochet in the space between the two. Chain 2, single crochet in between the two, and continue all the way across. So you're skipping 2 double crochets and doing a single crochet. Chain 2, skip the 2, and go in the gap in between. Okay, we're down to the end here. We're going to chain 2 and single crochet in the top of the turning chain. And we're going to lay it down, and we're going to double check our numbers that we need to have 12 chain 2 spaces. So there's 1, 2, 3, 11, and there's number 12. So now we're back to the double crochet row, chain 3, turn your project, and we're going to double crochet in the first chain 2 spot. So we're going to do 1 there. We're going to skip the single crochet, go to the next chain 2 spot, put 2 double crochets, skip to the next chain 2, 2 double crochets. And so now you can see what we're going to be doing is you're alternating between your double crochet row and your single crochet with a chain 2, double crochet. So continue that pattern until your project is a square. This Afghan square is called the ripple stitch. So you have your yarn and you need to start with a slip knot. I put it over my index finger and thumb, give it a twist and draw up your yarn. And I have my size J crochet hook. So for this one, we start with chaining 26 chains very loosely. So count 26 really loose chains. So we start this pattern in the second chain from the hook. So there's number 1 and there is number 2. So we're going to start with a single crochet and 2 double crochets in the same stitch. So here is, we're going to insert for a single crochet. So there's 1. Here's number 2. I like to go under both of the parts of the chain. So we have 2 pieces of thread right there. So for a single crochet, you just put it in and draw back your yarn and draw through both on the hook. Then we're going to do 2 double crochets in the same spot. A double crochet is you loop over 1. We're going to go back in that same hole and draw back your yarn, draw through 2 on your hook, and draw through 2 on your hook. Do 1 more double crochet in that same hole, draw through 2, and draw through 2. So in the second one from your hook, you have put a single crochet and 2 double crochets. We're going to skip 2 chains, so there's 1 and 2, so we're going to leave those empty. And in the third one, we're going to do the same exact thing. Single crochet and 2 double crochets in that same hole, in that same chain. We're going to skip 2. So here is 1, 2, and we're going to go in the third one, single crochet, and 2 double crochets. And complete your row. 1, 2, and 1 single crochet, 2 double crochet. I am down now to the last 3 chains, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to skip 2 just as you've done, but in the last one you're just going to put 1 single crochet. So there's what you have at the end of row 1. Now simply chain 1, turn your project, and we are going to, in the very first single crochet, you're going to do the same exact rhythm. So here's our first single crochet. We're going to put 1 single crochet, 2 double crochet. In the next single crochet, you're going to do the same thing. So remember when you're heading this direction, it was single crochet, 2 double. So that'll be a good indicator to be able to help you find the single crochet. It's for one, it's the shorter of the 2 stitches, but just go over a little bit and do a single crochet in the top of the other single crochet and 2 double crochets. So you're doing the same thing as you did on the chain. On the chain, remember, we skipped 2. On this, you're skipping 2 double crochets and we're going to that single crochet. So skip the 2 and single crochet and 2 double. Skip the 2 double crochet, jump right over to the other single, and we do 1 single and 2 double. Okay, we're down to the last little group of stitches here. Skip the 2 and just do 1 single crochet in that first single crochet. So here you are visually at the end of your second row. We have it nice and square on each end. You've ended with a single crochet, chain 1, and do the same 3 stitch combination in that very first single crochet you just finished. So single crochet, 2 doubles. And continue across, skip the 2, and go to that single crochet. And that is all there is to the ripple stitch pattern. Continue this until your piece is square. So I'll come back when I get a little further to help you determine the right distance, and then we'll finish off with a border. When you get close to it visually being a square, take one corner and fold it up, and we want to have your edge of your triangle to be close to even. It won't be exact, but this you can see we're about 1 row off. So when you get down to where it's close to a square, do your measurement, and then we're going to finish here with 1 last row, and then we'll measure it again. Ending with the single crochet in the top of that one. So now let's see what we have on our measurement. Okay, let's test that. You know, and it looks like I can still do 1 more row. Let's see what the measurements show up. This is measuring at 6.5 by 6. So I'm going to go ahead and do 1 more row because we want it to be as square as possible. Okay, looks fantastic. So there you have the ripple stitch, and now we're ready to put the edging on the square. Okay, so for this block, we are actually doing a square. It's the only square in the whole Afghan. And so this one is not going to go back and forth. It is truly making a square. So we're going to start with our slip knot over your index finger and thumb. I give it a twist, and I draw up my yarn, and I have my size J crochet hook. And so for the Afghan square, you're going to start by chaining 8. And we're going to form a ring. So then to form the ring, just go back to stitch number 1, insert your hook, and draw back your yarn. Now to start, we start with a cluster. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we are going to then work a cluster, which means you're going to yarn over, and you're going to go through your loop, your ring, and draw up your yarn, and draw through 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, go through your ring, draw through 2 on your hook. Now we have 3 loops on our hook. We yarn over and we draw through all 3. That's what you call a beginning cluster. Chain 5 after you made your beginning cluster, chain 5. Now we're going to just work a cluster. So to do a cluster, you're going to yarn over, go into your ring, draw through 2, yarn over, go through your ring, draw through 2, yarn over, go through your ring, and draw through 2. At this point, you have 4 on your hook, so you draw through all 4. So here they look very similar, but your chain 3 makes up part of your beginning cluster, and here is a cluster. So after your first full cluster, we chain 2 and we do another cluster. So yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, and draw through 2, yarn over, and draw through all. Chain 5, and do this process again. We're going to do 2 more clusters with a chain 2 in between. And when possible, the beginning tail, try to hide it in your center ring chain. So you can see I'm kind of holding it there to try to encase it in your stitches. So here's our second cluster. Draw through all. So we have chain 5, cluster, chain 2, cluster, chain 5, cluster, chain 2, cluster, and we're going to do the same over here. We're going to do 5 and 2 clusters with 2 chains in between. It's getting really close. So now we have to chain 5. We're going to do a cluster here. And to connect to the one before, we're going to chain 2. And we're just going to do a slip stitch in the top of the beginning chain there. So you just insert your hook and draw back. So there you have round number 1. We're going to do 5 rounds total. So here's round number 2. We need to get our stitch over here to this chain 5 place. So you're not doing a stitch, you're just doing a slip stitch across to get your hook over here. And so now we're in a position to where we can start. And to start round 2, we are going to chain 3 and we're going to do a beginning cluster. And remember, a beginning cluster, you stop when you have 3 on your hook, and we draw through all 3. We're going to chain 3 and do a full cluster. So how you have your corner here. Now we need to get to this spot here, so they're going to have us chain 2, and we're going to put 3 double crochets in that chain space of the round before. So 3 double crochets, and we're going to chain 2, and now we're back to making clusters. That's the first one on the corner. Now we chain 3. We do the second one on the corner. We need to get over to that place, so we're going to do chain 2, 3 double crochets in the gap that we created on the round before. We need to get over to our corner, so we're going to chain 2 so that we can do a cluster. A chain 3, and a cluster. We need to get to that center gap there, so chain 2, 3 double crochet, chain 2, cluster, we're on the corner, so we're going to chain 3, do another cluster, draw through all on the hook. Almost done with this side, so we're going to chain 2 to get to that center. So we have 1, 2, 3, and a slip stitch in the top of your chain 3 that you started with. So here we are. We have 3 double crochets on each side and 2 clusters in each corner. Okay, again, we need to travel over to that corner, so we're going to slip stitch a couple stitches to get our yarn over here to this corner. And we're going to again start with a beginning cluster, which is chain 3, Draw through all on the hook, chain 3 again for the corner, and do another cluster. Now we need to travel over to this center spot, so we're going to chain 2. And in this gap, on each of the gaps, we are going to put 2 double crochets. So there's a double crochet in 2 double crochets in that gap. Go ahead and put a double crochet in the top of each of those. So now we have 5 so far in a row, and we have this gap that needs to have 2 double crochets. We need a chain 2 to get over to the corner. Do a cluster. Draw through all 4 on the hook. Chain 3 for your corner. Do a cluster. We need to get over to our gap, so we're going to chain 2, do 2 double crochets, one double crochet in the top of the ones down below, so we have 3 to match up with those 3, 2 for the next gap, and we need to get to the corner, chain 2, cluster, chain 3 on your corner, and cluster. So there, it's half done, and you can continue this square all the way around just as you've done so far, chaining 2 to get to your gap, and chain 3 on the corner. Okay, we're at the end of that round. We need to chain 2 and connect to the top of the chain 3 that we started with just a slip stitch. So there we have the end of round 3. So round 4 is and 5 are just identical. So we'll go ahead, once you have this rhythm down, it's going to be super simple to remember. So we're just going to travel over to our corner, start with your beginning cluster, always chain 3 on your corners, do another cluster, you need to get over to that gap, so we're going to chain 2. In the gap, we're going to add 2 double crochets, double crochet in each of the ones down on the previous round. Okay, we're to a gap, so we need to add 2 more there. And we're to the corner, so to get to the corner, we need to chain 2 to get to a cluster. So there you have all that you need to know. You're going to continue the row in that same method, chaining 2 to get to your gaps, put 2 double crochets in your gaps, and 3 chains on the corner. So finish round number 4 and finish round number 5, then we'll be ready to add the edging. Okay, this is nearing the end of the 5th round, and I've just completed my stretch of double crochets. Going to chain 2, do a slip stitch into the top of the beginning chain, and now this square is ready for your edging. This square combines 2 super cool stitches, the fan and the popcorn. And so we're going to start with our slip knot. And I just put it around my finger and thumb, give it a twist, and draw up the yarn. I have a size J crochet hook. And so to start with, we chain 26. 26. And as a good practice is to always count your chains before you start your first row. 24, 26. Okay, so we're good. We have 26. Make sure your chain is nice and loose. So now we're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. This is number 1. This is number 2. So we're going to single crochet in the second one. A single crochet, you just insert your hook into the chain, and I like going under both strands, so you just put it in without going over it first, draw it back, Now you draw through both on your hook. Single crochet in all of the chains all the way across. So we're going to insert it in under 2 strands, draw it back, draw through both on the hook. Okay, so then now lay down your first row and count to make sure you have 25 single crochets. So now we are going to chain 3, and this is going to get counted as your first double crochet. So we're chaining 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to turn our project. So this is considered your first double crochet. Now we need to double crochet in the next single crochet, and a double crochet, you loop it over your hook first before you put it in to the stitch. Draw back, draw through 2, draw through 2. In the next single crochet, we're going to do our first popcorn. So to do a popcorn, you put 5 double crochets all in the same single crochet. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And this is where it's really fun how you make the popcorn. Pull out your hook at this point and put your finger in that loop. Take your hook and go back to the first double crochet. So count 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's not this one, it's the 5th one. Remember that double crochet was in a different stitch. So insert your hook into number 1, pull the loop back on it, draw through, and then we're going to do a chain to finish off your popcorn. Now we're going to do a fan, and to do a fan we're going to skip 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in this next one, so the 5th one over, we are going to put 9 treble stitches in there. And so this is pretty fun. A treble is you loop it over twice. So there's 1, there's 2. We're going to insert it into that stitch, into the single crochet, and draw back your yarn. Now you're going to draw through 2, draw through 2, draw through 2. And so we're going to do 9 of those in that stitch. So that was number 1. Loop it over twice, insert it, and draw back your yarn. Draw through 2, draw through 2, draw through 2. Looped over twice, drew it back, 2, 2, and 2. So that's 2, 4, 6, 7. We need to do 2 more. There's number 8, and here's number 9. So just to hold that in place there, we're going to pull out the loop. So here we have our 2 first double crochets, a popcorn, and a fan. And so to continue across, we're going to do a popcorn, a fan, and a popcorn, and finish out your first row. So at this point, we skipped 4 to get to it. Now we need to skip 4 after it. So here we have our chains, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to skip those 4, and we're going to do a popcorn in the 5th stitch. So remember, a popcorn is 5 double crochets in the same stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Put your finger in the loop, put your hook in number 1, draw it back, and make a chain to finish it off. Now we're going to skip 4 again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to do a fan, which is the treble. So 1, 2 over your hook, two loops over the hook, draw it back your yarn, draw through 2, draw through 2, draw through 2. We're going to do 9 of those, just as we did over here. We did 9, now we're going to do 9 in this stitch. So 1, 2 over, draw back, 2, 2, and 2. 8 and 9. Okay, we skipped 4 to get to that point. Now we're going to skip 4 again. We're going to do a popcorn in the 5th one over. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's our popcorn's place. Which is 5 double crochets in the same stitch, so in the same single crochet of row number 1. So that's 5. Put your finger in the loop, put your hook in number 1, draw it through, and chain to finish it off. At this point you should have 2 single crochets, and that means you did it perfectly, you counted in correctly, and we're going to do a double crochet in each one of those places. So there is what you have at the end of row 1. 2 double crochets, popcorn fan, popcorn fan, popcorn, and 2 double crochets. Now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to turn, and now we're going to put a single crochet in the top of each of these stitches. At the end, you're going to need to have 25 single crochets. So it's important to make sure that you're counting them at the end. So here's 1, there's 2, in the top of your popcorn is 3, in each fan is would be 9 more. Okay, so that was the end of the fan. Now we're going to do 1 in the top of your popcorn, 9 more in your fan, okay, 1 more in the popcorn, and 1 in the double crochet, and 1 in your chain, which counts as a double crochet. Lay it down and let's count to make sure. Two, 3, 4, and 25. Now we're going to go back and do the fan popcorn row. So we're going to just repeat exactly what we did. So you chain 3, that's your first double crochet in the next one, popcorn in the next one, okay, let's go back 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we put your hook in there, draw back your yarn, and chain to finish it off. Skip 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So in the top of your fan is where you make another fan. So loop it over twice to do your treble. We have 2, 4, 6, 8. We need to do 1 more. Okay, that's all you need to continue your pattern. So you're going to skip 4, popcorn, skip 4, a fan, skip 4, popcorn, and end with 2 double crochets. Your next row, you're going to single crochet, making sure you have 25. So you're just going to continue the pattern, single crochet, fan and popcorn, single crochet, fan and popcorn, until your project is pretty close to a square. This square is going to use clusters, and they call them soft clusters, and it's a pretty cool pattern. So I'm starting with my yarn. Start with a slip knot, draw up your yarn. I have the J crochet hook, and we begin with 26 loose chains. So it's good practice to count your chains when you finish counting, just to double check so that you save yourself from pulling out your work. Okay, so we have 26, and on this one we're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So there's the first one. We're going to put a single crochet in the second one from the hook. Single crochet, you just put your hook in, draw back your yarn, and draw through the 2 on the loop. Now we're going to chain 1 and we're going to skip one and do a single crochet in the next one. Chain one, skip one, and single crochet. And when I'm going into the chain down below, it's good to go through and have both of the threads on top of your hook. So now we chain one, skip one, and single crochet all the way across the rest of the row. And so now we're down to the last two, and go ahead and put a single crochet in the last chain. And so at this point you need to have 25 stitches, and it's important to count because the rest of the pattern depends on it. So go ahead and count to see that you have 25 stitches. Perfect, so I have 25. So now go ahead and chain 3 and turn your project. And now we're going to be working in those chain 1 spaces that you just created. So in the very first chain 1 space, we are going to do a cluster. And a cluster is simply you yarn over, insert it into your chain 1 place, and draw through 2 on the loop. Yarn over, insert into the same space, draw up your yarn, draw through 2 on the loop. So now at this point you have 3 loops on your hook. So we're going to do it one more time. We're going to yarn over, draw through, and draw through 2 on the hook. So now you have 4. So when you have 4, yarn over and draw through all 4. So that's called a soft cluster. So we're going to chain 1, and we're going to do a soft cluster in each of the chain 1 places that you created on the previous row. So yarn over, go through in the chain spot, and draw through 2. Yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, and draw through 2. At this point you have the 4 on the hook, and draw through all 4, chain 1, go to the next chain 1's place, and continue making soft clusters with the chain 1 in between on the rest of the row. At the end of your last cluster, we're not going to chain 1, we're just going to put a double crochet in that stitch. So here's what you have at this point. Let me pull it to see the gaps there. So you have your chain 1 in between, and a cluster, it basically looks like 3 double crochets in one spot, but the way they are gathered at top makes it look pretty cool. So at this point you should have 12 clusters. 10 and 12. So we have 12 clusters, and we ended with a double crochet. Now we chain 1, we turn our project, and we are going to do a single crochet in that very first double crochet, chain 1. We're going to do a single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain, single crochet, chain. So you're just going over to the gap in between the clusters. Chain, single crochet, chain. And you go all the way across the row doing this single crochet, chain, single crochet, chain. Okay, we're down to our last cluster. We're going to chain, and then we are going to put a single crochet in the top of your turning chains from the row before. So here we have it now, cluster row, single crochet row. And that's all you need to know to finish this square. So at this point, we're going to do your cluster row. So chain 3, turn, and in the first chain 1 spot, we're going to put a cluster. So it's yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through all 4 on the hook. Chain 1. Here is our next chain gap, and we put a cluster in the next gap. And you continue your rows back and forth. So we're going to do a cluster row, single crochet row, cluster row, single crochet row until you have a square. It's getting really close to looking like a square, so I'm going to finish off my single crochet chain 1 row and measure it to see where I'm at. It's Oh, perfect. So we're 7 by 7. So we want it as close as you can to a square. And if it's just a little off, we'll be able to adjust it when we block it. So at this point, it's ready for your edging. This square is known as the Trinity Stitch. So I have my yarn, going to start with my slip knot over my thumb and index finger, give it a turn and pull up the yarn, don't pull up the tail. And I have my size J crochet hook. To start this one, we do 26 loose chains. Okay, and when you get your 26 done, it's a good practice to double check and count that you have 26. Okay, this one is called the Trinity Stitch because we're going to be going through 3 stitches down below and drawing all together. So we're going to start in the second chain from the hook. So there's 1 and there's 2, and we're going to do a single crochet. So go under 2 pieces of the chain, 2 pieces of yarn, and do a single crochet, which is you just draw through the 2 on the loop. In the same stitch, we are going to insert your hook and draw up a loop. In the next stitch, you're going to insert your hook and draw up a loop. And in the third stitch, you're going to insert your hook and draw up a loop. At this point, you have 4 loops on your hook. Draw through all 4. And this part is really important. You're going to chain 1, but it is a really nice and loose chain 1. So just a nice and loose chain. And you've finished in this stitch right here. We're going to start the Trinity all over again. You're going to insert your hook and pull up 1. Go to the next one, insert your hook, pull up, and go to the third, insert your hook, and pull up. Now we're going to go through all 4 and do that same really loose chain. Go into the same stitch you just were in, and you do number 1. There's number 2, and there's number 3. Insert your hook, go through all 4, and 1 big loose chain. And you're going to continue this all the way across till we get to the end. When you get to your last stitch, do not chain 1, just put a single crochet in that beginning chain. So here we have your first row, and it's important. I have to admit, I had to tear this one out and count several times when I've done it over time to make sure that we have the right number of stitches. I'm going to try to turn this and show you counting it. We need to have 25 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So perfect. So you should have 25 stitches. So now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to turn our row, and we're going to single crochet in that first one, single crochet that we just did. So start off with a single crochet, and in that same stitch we do the Trinity. So there's number 1, there's number 2, and here's number 3. And so that is why that chain needs to be nice and loose so that you can get your hook in it. So you're going to draw through all 4, do another big nice and loose chain. We're going to go in that same stitch, 1, 2, and 3. And so that's the chain 1 from down below that's nice and loose. And we're going to draw through all 4 and do a big chain 1. 1, 2, and 3. All 4, big chain 1. Okay, I wanted to show you the end of row 2. So there's our chain 1, 1, 2, and we're in that turning chain there is 3. Draw through all 4, and we're going to put a single crochet in that same stitch. So we've chained 1 and we've turned. We're going to single crochet in that first spot, and we're going to start the Trinity all over again. 1, 2, and 3. pull through all 4 on the hook, and 1 big loose chain. And you're going to continue that back and forth until you have a square project. Okay, I'm almost finishing with the last row, so we're going to do our loose chain 1 and do the next 3, draw through all 4 on the hook, and end with a single crochet in the corner. And we're going to check our measurements. You can roughly tell by folding it in half, but you can double check with a tape measure, and we're roughly 6.5 by 6.5. So now you're ready to do your edging. Okay, this square is going to use front post and back post to make these nice horizontal lines on your square. So start with a standard slip knot, and I just put it over my finger and thumb, give it a twist and draw up your thread. And I have a size J crochet hook, and we start with 27 nice loose chains. And lay down your chains and double check your counting. And we needed to have 27. 27. Okay, so this one uses a front post and a back post stitch. So we're going to double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So this is considered number 1. It got kind of pulled tight there. There we go. So that's number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to do a double crochet in the 4th chain, and a double crochet is you loop over first and insert it into your stitch, go under 2 strands of the chain, draw back your yarn, draw through 2 on the hook, draw through 2 on the hook. And we're going to do those all the way across. So another double crochet in your next one, draw through 2, draw through 2, loop over first, draw it back, draw through 2, draw through 2. Okay, there's my last double crochet. Lay it down and double check that you have 25 stitches. And your beginning turning chain, that counts as 1, so that's number 25. So now we're going to chain 1. We're going to turn our project, and we're going to work a front post double crochet around each of the double crochets you just did. So you're going to chain 1 and turn, and you don't, I made this mistake over and over again. You have to put a front double crochet in that very first double crochet. I was making the mistake in starting here. You need to start here. So front post is you loop over, go around the post, draw back your yarn, and draw through 2, and draw through 2. And you're going to do front post all the way across. So here's looped over, go around the post, draw back your yarn, draw through 2, draw through 2. Go around the post, 2, 2, around the post, and just continue all the way across doing front post double crochets around the row that you just finished. At the end of this one, you need to count again to make sure that you have 25 stitches. Okay, have 2 left. And so remember, this was considered a stitch, so go ahead and front post double crochet around it as well. Let's lay down our row and double check. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 25. Fantastic. So now we are going to chain 1, and we're going to now do back post double crochet. So to do a back post, we just got done doing everything on the front side. Just do reverse. You're going to loop it over, and you need to go around that first one. Draw back your yarn, draw through 2, draw through 2. Loop over, go on the back side of your post, draw through up your yarn, draw through 2 and 2. And so you can see what's happening here by alternating. It's making these really cool horizontal ridges in your pattern. So continue back post double crochets all the way across that row. And as you guessed, when we're done with this row, we'll count to make sure we have 25 stitches. Okay, closing in on the end here. Still need to go around that first stitch and do your back post double crochet and double check that you have 25 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now you just repeat. You just chain 1. You just finished a row of back post. Now you do a row of front post. When you get done with that row, we're going to chain 1 and do back post all the way across until your project is close to the size of a square. Okay, it looks like it's getting pretty close to a square, so I'm finishing off this row, and this one happens to be the front post double crochets, and this block is really curly. But surprisingly, once you steam it, it lays down really good. So don't worry about that. So let's measure. So we're just about, it depends how stretched out. So roughly 6 1/4, 6 1/2. And that's what we are on this direction. So we're all ready to put the edging on this square. Okay, for this one, we are going to work on the post of the stitches. So it's a half double crochet on the posts. So we're going to start with our slip knot. I have my J crochet hook, and you start with 27 loose chains. And I always double check to make sure I didn't miscount. 26 and 27. Nothing more frustrating to me than getting your whole row done and you have miscounted. So now we are going to do half double crochets, and we're going to start it in the third chain from the hook. So what that means is, let me get my hook out of there. So that's number 1, there's number 2, and there's number 3. So we're going to do a half double crochet in the third one from the hook. And a half double crochet, you loop over. You go through both strands of the chain, draw back, and now we're just going to draw back through all 3. And we're going to do that half double crochet all the way across. So you just draw through all 3, go to the next chain, looping over first, draw through all 3. So when we're going to get done with the half double crochets on this row, we are going to have 25 of them, and so we'll double check. So let's count the number of half double crochets. 4, and there's 25. Fantastic. So we are going to chain 2 now, and we're going to simply do half double crochets in each half double crochet from across the row. So don't skip any. In the very first one, we do another half double crochet. Okay, I'm ending the second row, and this is the turning chain. So we're going to go ahead and put a half double crochet in the top of that, and we're going to count again to make sure that we have 25. 1, 2, 3, 24, and 25. Fantastic. So now is when we start doing the fun part of working on the post. So we're going to chain 2. We're going to half double crochet in the very first one. So now we are going to do a front post half double crochet on the row prior. On this half double crochet below the next one that you would typically go in, we're going to pop down below it, and we are going to do a front post half double crochet. So loop over, go down to the half double crochet directly below, draw back your yarn, and draw through all 3 on the hook. So basically what you're doing is you're skipping 1 up here to do your next one. Down below you're going every other half double crochet is a post, and up here every other one is normal. So we just finished a post. So you have a stitch in that one, so we're going to skip the next chain because that corresponds with your post, and do a half double crochet. So down here, you're going to skip that half double crochet and do a post. Up here, you're going to skip a chain and do a half double crochet. You're going to skip one down there, do the half double crochet around the post. Up here, you're going to skip one and do a normal. Down low, you're going to skip one, do a post. Skip one, do normal. Skip one, do post, all the way across. Okay, we're down to the last one. We're going to skip that, and we're going to do a half double crochet in the turning chain. So at the end of that row, we are going to have 25 stitches. And so you go ahead and count those again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 24, and 25. So we're right on track. And so now you're going to chain 2. You're going to turn your row and you're going to half double crochet in each of the stitches all the way across. This is what it looks like at the end of the row that you just did the half double crochets all the way across. Double check that you have 25 of those. Now we're going to chain 2 and we're going to turn and we're going to repeat this front post concept. So you're going to half double crochet in the first one. Now you're going to go down below to the top of the half double crochet here, and you're going to go around that post and draw through all 3. So you're skipping that chain, go to the next one, do a half double crochet, skip that half double crochet, go to this one. And you have to kind of stretch out your half double crochet to make sure that they're nice and tall, the same height. So skip that one, half double crochet, skip that one, half double crochet, nice and tall, skip that one, go to this one, and you're going to continue that. There we go, all the way across. So this is what you're going to end up with. You're going to end up with posts all the way running this way, and on the back side, you're going to have it nice and smooth. So we're going to continue across, front post, and then a whole row of half double crochets, 25 of them, front post, and just continue till your project is a square. Okay, finishing a half double crochet row, the one that goes all the way across. And it looks like we're pretty close to a square, so let's measure this. Let's turn it over and show you what both sides look like. Makes a nice little ridge. Okay, so let's measure this. We have 7.5 and almost 7.5, so that looks pretty good. And so this one makes a really cool pattern with the ridges going up and down, both sides, pretty sweet. So now this one is ready for your edging. For this square of your Afghan, we are going to do half double crochets. So I have my dark thread, my dark yarn, and I'm going to start with my slip knot. So I go around my index finger and thumb and draw up your yarn. So we are going to start with 27 loose chains. So nice and loose, you're going to chain 27. And I always lay it out and double check and recount it. So recount just to make sure you have 27. Now we are going to do half double crochets. So I'll show you what that stitch is, but we are going to do it in the third chain from the hook. So let me lay this out here. So this one doesn't count. That's the loop that's on your hook. So here's 1, 2, and 3. So we are going to go in this stitch right there. And to do a half double crochet, you loop over, and so let me find that again, 1, 2, 3. So you loop over and you insert it under both of the stitches on that chain, and draw back your thread. So now you have 3 on the hook. Now you draw through all 3. So that's a half double crochet. And we're going to do that all the way across. So loop it over, go through the next chain, draw, and then draw through all 3. Down towards the end of that row, and you go ahead and you go clear to your beginning chain, and you put your last half double crochet there. And at this point we need to recount that you need to have 25 half double crochets. So make sure you count. So there's 1, 2, 3, 24, and 25. So we need to have 25 half double crochets. Now you chain 2 and turn your project. The cool thing about this square is you're going to always do a half double crochet, but it really gives it a cool look by which loop you go in. So here we have the top of the row that you just finished. So facing me is the front loop, and facing away from me is the back loop of these stitches. So here's front and here's back. So for this whole next row, we are going to insert our crochet hook and only go through the back. If you were going to just do a normal half double crochet, you would go through both of them, but we're only going to go through this back loop. So for the first stitch, you go in the first half double crochet, and we're going to go in the back loop only, and we're going to draw through the 1 and draw through all 3. Next one, we're going to go in the front loop. So we're going to go over, and this time I'm going in the loop that is closest to me, and I'm going to draw up my yarn and draw through all 3. Go back to the back loop. So there's the back loop, and draw through all 3. Front loop, back, okay, we're down to our last half double crochet, and that one it ends in the back loop. And so at this point, lay down your project and count again. It's super important to make sure that we are going to stay square. You should at this point have 25 half double crochets. So you can count the stitch up here on top, or you can count the stem of your stitch down below, but just make sure you have 25 half double crochets. At the end of your row, we're going to chain 2, turn your row, and you have learned everything you need to do to continue this pattern. So we're going to do a half double crochet in the back loop, half double crochet in the front loop, back, and front. So go ahead and continue that row across, counting your stitches each row until we make a square. I'm getting close to it being a square, so there's a couple ways that you want to test this. You can fold it to see if it makes an even triangle, and you can see we're a little short there. So we have to go at least one more row, but you can also lay it out nice and smooth and measure. This one is measuring, looks like right about 6.5, and we're right at 6. So I'm going to go ahead and do one more row, and then we will be ready to put the border on it. Okay, for this Afghan block, we are going to do the traditional V-stitch. And start with your standard slip knot. And I have my size J crochet hook. So to start with this one, we do 28 loose chains. 1, 2, 3, and always count before you get started. 1, 2, 3, 6, 27, 28. Looks good. So we start in on the 5th chain from the hook. So on this one we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that is the 5th chain from the hook, and we start off with a double crochet. A double crochet is you loop it over your hook once, insert it under both strands on the chain, and draw back your yarn. Loop over your hook, draw through 2, loop over and draw through 2. So that is a double crochet in the 5th chain from the hook. In the same spot, we're going to chain 1 and add another double crochet. And that's what makes up the V-stitch, the double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So now we're going to go ahead and skip the next 2 chains. So you're going to skip 1 chain, 2 chain, and we're going to put a V-stitch in the 3rd one. So we're skipping 1, 2, insert your hook, loop over first, insert your hook under 2 strands, draw through 2, draw through 2, chain 1, insert back into the same chain. We're going to skip 2, do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same spot. Skip 2 chains, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And you're going to continue that on the rest of the row. Okay, I'm getting down to the end here, finishing off the second part. At this point, you have 2 chains left, and we are going to double crochet in the last chain. You should have 8 V-stitches. Starting with your turning chain and ending with a double crochet. Now chain 3, turn your project, and we're going to work a V-stitch in each of those chains 1 spaces of your V-stitch down below. So there's a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. We're going to go to the next V-stitch and do 1 in that chain 1 gap. Chain 1, V-stitch. Go to the next V-stitch and put 1 right in the top. So all of your V-stitches will line up with each other. You're doing it in the chain 1 space of the V-stitch. So continue to the end, chain 3 to go back, chain 3 to go back until we have a square. It looks like I'm getting close to the square size that we need to get to. So this is my last V-stitch, and with a double crochet in the turning chain, and let's measure and see what we have here. And about 6 1/4, 6 1/4. So now you are ready for this one to have its edging. Okay, this block is super cool. It uses front post and back post double crochet to make this little woven pattern. And so you're going to take your thread, start with your slip knot, which I just go around my index finger and thumb, draw up your knot, and I'm using a size J crochet hook. And we start with 27 chains. Okay, and always double check your counting on that one. I truly feel like I might have missed one. So as practice, I count every time. Make sure they're nice and loose chains. (26) and 27. So we're good. Now we're going to double crochet in the 4th one from the hook. So this is number 1. There's number 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to put a double crochet in the 4th chain, and a double crochet you loop over and you insert it under 2 strands of the chain and draw back your yarn. Now you have 3 loops on your hook. Draw through 2 and draw through 2. And we're going to do double crochets all the way across this chain. So we're going to pull it back, draw through 2, draw through 2, loop it over, draw it back, 2 and 2. And we're going to go all the way across. At the end of it, we're going to recount, and at this point you need to have 25 stitches. Okay, here's the last one, and let's count we need to have 25. 24. The turning chain is 25. So here's 24. You count the turning chain as a stitch, so that's 25. So now we're going to chain 1, turn your project, and we're going to work front post double crochets. So just as the name is, it's a double crochet, but we're going to go around the post instead of going in the top of the stitch. So you loop over, go around the post of the stitch down below and draw it back. You have the 3 on the hook, draw through 2, draw through 2. We're going to do this for 6 stitches. So go around the post, draw back your thread, draw through 2, draw through 2, loop it over, around the post, 2 and 2. And this is number 4, so we're going to go a total of 6 front post double crochets. So that's what we have. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so now we're going to do a back post double crochet, and we're just going to do that on one of them, and that's going to set us up for our pattern. So a back post, loop it over, and go behind. So here you have the going away from your body on the opposite side of your body. You put your hook around the post on the back side, draw through the 2, and draw through 2. And so now we're going to do front post for 5 stitches. Okay, I believe that's 5. 2, 4, 5. Yep, now we're going to do the back post one time. And we're going to do 5 more front. Okay, double check. 2, 4, 5. We're going to do 1 on the back. And at this point, we should have enough to do 6 more front. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you started with 6 over here, then we went 5 and 5, and we're going to end with 6. So we're going to do 6 front posts to finish out that row. And we have our turning chain. Make sure that's counted as 1. So we'll lay it down and double check. So we have 2, 4, 6 front. And we have 6 front on each end. In between we have a back and a back, and then we go 5 front, 5 front. So it's 6, 5, 5, and 6, and dividing each or separating each one with a back post. So that's the one of the rows that we're going to be repeating. So once you get the rhythm in your head, it's fantastic to just go real quick. So we're going to chain 1 and turn. Now we're going to do back post for 3. So this is a separate pattern that we're going to do. So we're going to alternate between the row we just did and this one. So back post 3 times. So after you do your back post, we're going to do front post for 1. Then we go back to the back and we're going to do back post around the next 5. Okay, so we've done 5 back. We're going to come to the front for 1 and go to the back for 5. After your 5, we're going to go to the front for 1 and back for 5 more. Okay, we're getting close to the end. We just did 5 in the back, 1 in the front. And you should have 3 left at this point. 1, 2, 3. We started with 3, so we end with 3. So now we go on the back for 3. Okay, so at the end of row 3, we have the primary stitch is in the back. So you have 3 back, 1 forward, 5 back, 1 forward, 5 back, 1 forward, 5 back, 1 forward, and 3 in the back. So now we're going to repeat this and then just alternate between them. So here we are going back to the second row rhythm. So we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn. This one we're going around 6 front post. After your 6 front post, we go 1 in the back, 5 in the front. Just follow the instructions I have on the screen and you'll do great. It's just rotating between starting with 3 or starting with 6, and go until your project is almost a square. Okay, this one is the quickest square, I think, out of all of them. All it does is takes a double crochet and a single crochet and alternates them to make a super cool texture. So start with your slip knot. I put around my finger and thumb, give it a twist, and draw up your yarn. Size J crochet hook, and we start with 23 loose chains. Okay, let's double check. I always like counting after I get done chaining. 1, 22, and 23. And so now on this one, the second chain from the hook, so this is number 1, this is number 2, you're going to start with a single crochet. So in the second one, insert your hook. You don't loop over ahead of time or anything, just put your hook in and go under 2 strands of the chain. Draw back your yarn and draw through all of the loops on your hook. Then the next one you're going to do is a double crochet. So you're going to loop over, go into the next chain, go under the 2 strands, and draw back your yarn, draw back through 2, draw back through 2. Then we're going to go back to a single crochet. So insert it, don't loop over ahead of time. So you just inserted it and drew up your loop. You have 2 on your hook, draw through all. Now we go back to a double. The next one's a single, double, single, and alternate between a single crochet and a double crochet all the way across your row. And when you're done, we'll need to recount, and you should have 22 stitches. Okay, you're down to the end, and you should end with a double crochet. So we're going to lay this out, and let's give it a count. We should, as I said, we should have 22 stitches. 20, 21, and 22. Fantastic. So now we're going to chain 1. And you're always going to start each row with a single crochet. So do a single crochet in the top of the row below, then you do a double crochet, single crochet, double, and you do that all the way across. So you should be starting with a single crochet and ending with a double crochet. So you continue this pattern until your block is almost a square. Okay, I'm close to it looking like a square here, so let me finish this row ending with a double crochet and lay it out here and see what we have. 6 and 6. So this is ready. This is probably one of my favorite ones because you really don't have to think, just alternate double crochet and single crochet. So this one is ready for its edging. To add a border on your squares, with the same color, we are going to do 1 border of single crochets, and then we are going to switch to the color that you have chose to be your joining color. And in my case, my joining color is the light gray. So your first row around is the color of your square. then we're going to finish it off and we're going to go join in with the color that you chose as your main color, I should say. So I have just completed the last stitch on this square. All squares are going to be a little bit different, but the process is the same. So you finish your last stitch, you're going to chain 1. In that last corner there, you're going to put 3 single crochets. Now we are going down the end of your rows, and we need to have 25 single crochets between this corner and the next corner. So you just space them out evenly, and each time I can promise you I've ripped them out probably 50% of the time, because each one is just a little different. So I'm just going to show you my process. So that's our corner, and now you just start doing single crochets and count as you go. So there's 1, 2, I'm going to put another one in that hole. There's 3, 4, 5. I'm going to put another one in that hole. So that's 6, 7, 8, 9 in the same hole, 10, and 11, 12. On 12 to 13-ish, you should be close to halfway, and it looks like we're pretty close. So that was 12, 13, 24 in the same hole, and in this last hole we'll go number 25. Now we're up to the corner, and in that corner you're going to put 3 single crochets. 1, oh, there we go, 2, and 3. So now we have turned and we're going to go down this side. The beginning tail, I have wove it through this edge of the square, so it will now get caught into our single crochet. So we've done 3, and now we do the same process, 25 on this side. Okay, this is number 25 on my last side. So we have each of the sides now have single crochets, and at this point you just join with a slip stitch in that first single crochet that you started with. So just stick, there you go, I got it through both of the pieces of that single crochet, and a slip stitch is you just pull it through and pull it through. I'm going to cut my thread and then just pull through your string. And now at this point, so that I can catch that tail in my stitching, I feed it through that last edge. Now take your main color, which is my light color, and we are going to join it in the corner. Pick any of the corners, but just pick the middle of the 3 stitches. So here's 1, 2, 3. So in the center one, insert your hook and draw up your yarn. Chain 1, and in that same stitch, you're going to put 3 single crochets. Now we go on each side, but instead of 25 in between, we need to have 27. And this time it's a little bit easier because you are following the stitches from down below. But there have been many times, because crafting is not perfect, there's been many times that I'll get to the end and I only have 26. So I'll back it off a little bit and I'll add one here to make sure I have 27. It's very important to have 27 on each side. Each square needs to be blocked, and so I am using a June Taylor cushioned square blocker. But there's a lot of mats out there. I have the link for this one down below, but you need to pin it onto a mat 8 inches square. So each square needs to be pinned 8 inches, and I have been putting my pins every inch along each of the sides. And after we get that done, then we can steam it to get it into shape. So I start by putting a pin in each corner at the 8-inch mark, and pin on each side, and then just add a pin all the way around. Okay, I'm just going to use my personal iron set on the steam setting. Steam each one of them for a minute. So I have my board, I have 3 of them on here. So I'm going to steam each one for a minute, come back and hit them for about another 20 seconds. And then when they cool down, I can remove the pins. Once they have cooled down and are dry, just pull off your pins and your square is blocked and ready to attach to make your Afghan. You may want to join your blocks as you go, and I have a diagram on the blog, DIYonthehouse.com, that you can print out. You can put them together in whatever order you want, because I did not want any of the same colors beside each other. So however you choose to put them together, to join them, you'll need a large eye yarn needle. And I am going to join them with the light color, the same color as the second row of the edging on each of your squares. So just cut a piece, roughly a yard long, and we will join it with this thread. And the reason we counted so carefully to make sure there were 27 stitches on each side, that'll make this process really easy. So to start the joining, thread up a couple, maybe 1.5 inches to hide your thread in the last row of stitching. And I'm just going to leave a tail like that. And then I have, following the pattern, I have my 2 pieces. I'm going to fold them wrong sides together, and I'm going to match up the corners, and it is just as simple as going through each from the bottom around to the top, to the bottom, to the top, and do not pull them too tight, just kind of nice and loose, but not too loose. Okay, there you can see the pattern that is going. It just makes it all a nice diagonal little stitch. So go ahead and do your squares that way. When you get to the end, leave your tail long. Don't cut this off, because you then can pick it up with your needle and join the next ones as you get them going. So just leave your tails nice and long, and you can join your squares as you get them done. Once you have sewn all of your squares together, we need to put a border on the entire project. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I am going to use the same color that I joined all the squares with. So in this pattern, it is the light color. And I don't like starting right on a corner, so I'm going to go a few stitches before that. Just insert your hook, draw through your thread, drop your thread, and I'm going to chain 2. So that's going to count as my first half double crochet, and I'm going to do 2 rows all the way around of half double crochet. So that's 1 in the next stitch, loop over, draw through all 3 on the hook, loop over, draw through, yep, there we go. And continue that, and I started near a corner so you could see what I have to do when I get to a corner. There we go. Okay, this is the corner stitch. We're going to put 3 half double crochets in the corner. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going down the other side and just continue a half double crochet all the way around your Afghan. Okay, and by putting those extra stitches in the corner, it lays nice and flat. So when you come around to this side, we're just going to slip stitch in the top of the first chain two again, and do a second row and finish it off. It'll just give it a nice solid border.